you can meet someone who's working as a gaffer, and then the next thing you know, they're working as like a lead producer or they have other jobs. I mean, there are so many people like that that I've met over the years
Hmm.
that now, if I look at where they are, I'm glad I've got their card.
What I love about how you describe yourself and your team about being the Sherpas of filmmaking, because it's interesting, especially given your background and how you've kind of stepped into it. Because as you kind of described, as I understand it, it wasn't the foundation wasn't in producing, although that's come into it. How do you distinguish now between being the Sherpa of filmmaking, so to speak, or the helping hand versus being a producer, or is there a distinction to be made there, or are you really just another way of saying producer?
Yeah, I mean, it's another way of saying producer, but I mean the the skills we offer, not the skills. I mean, basically the packages of what we offer. It's like we can come in and we can be consultants, or we can come in and actually attach ourselves as producers on the film.
Right.
So we've done that in the past. There's been situations where it's like, look, we we see the we see the potential in the project. It's like, look, we'll come in as producers, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's kind of a case by case basis. But honestly, what we find that we do most of the time, like back to the consulting side of it, is it's half the time it's managing expectations and it's just being a sounding board. So we're actually moving to be kind of becoming more almost managers and coaches, uh, where it's like we help the directors and producers talk through this kind of struggle that they're having with their creative process and try and figure out how to kind of birth it and make sure that it goes out in the world. So the labels are like consultant, producer, manager, coach. We're still trying to kind of find what that is. Um, and the other thing too is like, I mean, when it comes to managing, it's like I'm the type of person also, if I'm at a party and I'm in the room, I see two people who need to meet each other, I make that happen. That's what I really like doing. So
Yeah.
I like trying to get like-minded people together and people who can help one another. So that kind of also works kind of in the management type side of what we do.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, and I mean that's in this business awesomely powerful because it is a who you know business in the sense of, I mean, no one can do it alone. You got to meet the right people. You might have something incredible, but if you can't execute on another level, you need to know people like yourself who can put pieces together that need to come together.
Well, it's interesting we're talking about this now because I mean that's what I'm doing is I'm actually going through my database. I'm going through my address book and I'm like looking at all the people that I know that I'll be able to kind of reach out to and talk about what we're doing. And then like I'm putting connections together, just scanning through and updating these records. I mean, I suddenly realized like, oh wait, I got a question 2 days ago about this. This person will have that answer. Let me put them like, so that's, I'm constantly doing that. But
Mhm.
now I'm looking at it more in a business managing way where, oh, if I was in any other business, this would be called CRM, customer relations management.
Right.
But for us, it's networking. However, you got to manage your network. So right now, I'm actually putting tools in place, and that's something that I'd kind of highly recommend anyone who's working in the film industry is manage your network. Make sure that you have that database, that Rolodex, because you can meet someone at a party, you can get an email, and it can just get lost.
Right.
Make sure that you mine and have that stuff on hand because it can be powerful. Because there's a number of people, you know what this industry is like. You can meet someone who's working as a gaffer, and then the next thing you know, they're working as like a lead producer or they have other jobs. I mean, there are so many people like that that I've met over the years
Hmm.
that now, if I look at where they are, I'm glad I've got their card.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm glad I've kept in touch.
yeah. And now, do you find that because of your background working with in the horror genre and then in these genre films, is there a kind of sort of bracket, if you will? And you've kind of answered this already, I guess, but a bracket of genres that you tend to feel is going to be your best client, or are you fairly open to across the board, just looking at ideas and seeing where they go?
It's fairly open. It's interesting. We've tried to kind of narrow it down to kind of find, like, again, using business words, like it's like what's our avatar, like what's our best customer,
Hmm.
uh, and I think it's like um, it's just like it's film creatives. It's very broad. We like working in the field of genre, but then there's some other projects that we've looked at, like that wasn't a genre, but we actually had like a really fun time working with that person, helping and kind of bouncing ideas. Like this one film in particular, they came back to us twice, and the film was not at all within our initial wheelhouse. It was kind of like a comedy set, kind of like, remember those like kind of like horny teenage comedies during the 1980s? Like
Oh
there's
yeah,
like kind of, it went from Porky's and all, like it's like risky business,
right.
okay? And you had those kind of like characters, womanizing characters. There's this fun film which was like kind of a spin on that, but updating it. And
Hmm.
it wasn't really our wheelhouse, but we had a really fun time with that writer, bouncing off ideas with him and helping him kind of hone that
Hmm. Hmm.
to a place where he was able to take it to market and he got an option on it. And then
Right.
he came back to us with another film, which was very different, kind of started as a comedy and then became like a very serious drama. But again, it was the personality and someone who was open to hearing ideas from my wife and I, like who's my partner again, Kat, because we're experienced in these worlds.
Right.
I've been first line on the film festival submissions, seeing what comes in and what goes on.
Hmm.
And when I say goes on, what proceeds to kind of go on and find its audience. So we can find this like, well, you know what? That kind of film, that's maybe there's not an audience for it. You're gonna have a struggle if you change it to this, if you do this. Like we're not trying to force their hand. We're trying to give them different suggestions and see how they, because they've already got an initial idea, which is great.
Hmm. Hmm.
But we like to kind of work with them to help develop it into something which has better legs to enter into the market.
Right, right. And now, do you find that there are particular challenges now that, because you've like, as you mentioned, you've been on the front lines of submissions and seeing a lot of the directions that a lot of these genres go and how those deals are developed in the streaming climate, I'm sure, and now, how people are producing things on YouTube and everything. So do you find that there may be some assumptions that uh, people make about what it takes to get their project into distribution and out to the world that have changed now that you can help people with? Is there anything particular in terms of
Yeah.
these new challenges that you guys kind of face and deal with for filmmakers that maybe they know about or don't know about?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. Let's see. There's a number of nuggets that we can drop here, but one is for financing, and we don't really work primarily in financing. However, right now, rebuys on films,
Hmm.
that's kind of a phrase of the past. Okay. If you're coming to market with a film that has no name when it comes to a director, okay, if it's a first film and there's no lead, like don't bust your ass trying to get a pre-sale because it's not going to happen.
Right.
Okay. If you have a notable actor, if you have a director who has had film festival traction, there might be some interest, but most of the time they're going to wait. The distributors are going to like, we'll wait until we see it at the end. The other thing that the mistake that we see is we see filmmakers going to distributors on their own. And I think from some of your guests in the past, you don't do that.
Yeah,
You go
bad
to a
idea.
sales agent.
Yeah.
And I put it this way. Uh, I like fishing casually,
Hmm.
but I don't know how to catch a marlin. Okay. I don't know how to catch a swordfish, but I'm going to trust the person who knows what kind of bait to put on the hook and when those fish are in season and when they're biting.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the same thing with films. Okay. You've got to trust seasoned salespeople who know the market and
Mhm.
also know the international market.
Right.
And the sooner that you talk to them in your production process, the better you're going to be.
Mhm.
Because they could say, oh, this film, yeah, you'll sell in North America, but you won't be able to sell anywhere else because
Mhm.
there's a lot of cultural things. Westerns only sell in America.
Mhm.
Maybe you can get Germany, but probably not.
Mhm.
Okay. Horror films, again, horror films, different kinds of horror films sell in different kind of territories.
Right.
If you've got a film which is back to The Exorcist, kind of like rooted in kind of Catholicism,
Mhm.
that's not going to play as well in Asia.
Right.
It'll play well in like South America.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but a lot of times people don't take into the kind of cultural differences when it comes to films. Comedies, English language comedies, pretty much America. You're not going to be able to get that into any other territory because it's got to be dubbed unless it's a really big, high concept,
Mhm.
which can get translated easily. There's just too much work to
Right.
get that into a market. Um, but back to the challenges to today. Again, I go in tangents, but I think there's some nuggets there.
Absolutely.
It, yeah, the streamers. People are like, oh, the streamers are buying. Oh, the streamers are buying. But again, they're buying films that have traction and they're buying films that are sellable.
Mhm.
Right now, you've gone from having film posters to key art.
Mhm.
Okay. If
Mhm.
you can't translate or sell your film in a small box that's going to come up on iTunes,
Well,
done. You're done. I mean, just look, it's interesting seeing right now as we're in the Christmas season when we're recording this, is seeing every Hallmark-esque Christmas movie. Everyone's doing Christmas movies, and everyone looks the same.
mhm. Mhm.
But Christmas movies sell. So it's like you look at it, oh, it's a Christmas movie. You know what it is.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like you can't like and also faces sell and only actors' faces. So you've really got to figure out how to break out from those areas to market your film. And that's yeah, that's very different. And again, physical market is gone. So DVD, VH, I mean, obviously VHS is gone, but DVD, forget it. If you
Yeah.
want to have a physical release of your film, look into doing it yourself.
Mhm.
I mean, physical is coming back. There is kind of a growing group of kind of collectors enthusiasts for quality films, and I'm seeing some companies and some producers doing boutique releases on
Right.
physical media, but that's gone. So you can't count on making money there.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
Film festivals, what film festivals are looking for is very specific.
Mhm.
There's a lot, and that's another deep dive we could go into is most people are just sitting on Film Freeway submitting films to film festivals. You've got to do a lot of due diligence and homework on that, or else you're going to spend a lot of money
Right.
because there's a lot of festivals out there which aren't going to serve your film at all. Even if they do select your film, but you've got to know the best home for your film and do that groundwork before you start submitting.
Yeah.
Uh, Film festivals, prominent film festivals, they've actually been selecting the pandemic was hard on them.
Mhm.
So a lot of them had to let staff go and reduce the amount of films that they actually select.
No.
So that means it's far more competitive. I mean, I think that they just had the stats released for Sundance. Sundance just announced their lineup, and they
Mhm.
also released how many films got submitted.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, they picked like 1% of the films submitted. Like it's crazy. But I guarantee you, most of the films submitted would have had no chance at playing
Mhm.
Sundance.
Yeah.
It's just a big gamble that, but as well, there's also just and I'm gonna say too, a lot of the films that get submitted, the programmers already knew about those films ahead of time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very rarely do blind submissions get selected. And this can be we can elaborate that on that about how to submit to a film festival. That's one of the things the advice that we offer filmmakers
Oh,
is
great.
strategic film festival submission. so you don't waste your time and waste your money.
Yeah. Well, and in my impression from, and this has come up, I guess, through a few different interviews too, but it was always difficult, but there was a kind of a standard formula. When it, like, as you mentioned before, there was, you know, if you were going to go that route, there was the theatrical release or maybe a festival and then a theatrical, and then you've got DVDs in Blockbuster videos, and then it goes into, I guess, syndication or out to various networks. But the field has changed, and it has been changed for quite some time now. So there's a lot more chicken and egg problems in that dynamic as well.
Yeah,
I'm,
a
I'm,
lot of
I,
those,
sorry,
a
go ahead.
lot of those, a lot of those windows have just collapsed
Yeah,
or just totally gone. So, and if you want to get into theaters, well, you're going to have to hire someone to get you in those theaters.
yeah,
That can be super expensive. And, but the root of it all, and this is what this is back to managing. The root of it all is when we talk to our clients, the first thing we talk about is why did you make this film and what do you want this film to do for you?
right.
Because you need to have a clear understanding of that. Otherwise, you're going to waste your time
Yeah, yeah,
and your money and everyone else's time and money.
yeah. And I know we're going to pick up a second window here on time, but I want to see if I can squeeze it in. Um, when people are coming to you with that question, is this just strictly a kind of consultant for hire situation, or are you kind of fishing for projects you want to kind of engage that conversation in, and then you see where it goes from there?
No, it's pretty much consulting services. It's like come to us and we'll tell you like you're paying us, so we're going to be honest with you. We're
Right.
not going to try and kind of like, oh, we see this going like, no, we're going to tell you like, hey, you've made this film. It's not going to get in here. It's not going to get in here. But you know what? It could get in here and it could get in here. Let's help you go there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's managing expectations
Yeah.
and talking through what they want the film to do for them. Is it is this a stepping stone to make more films? Is this a social message film? Do you need to get is this film how you're going to get the approval of your friends and family? Like there's all these different things that we put them on the couch and we talk this through and then we help them go in that direction.
Yeah, very good. How healthy is this idea?
Exactly.
Nice.